Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. What is the one thing about you that you try to hide from others? Maybe it's not something big. Maybe it's just a quiet feeling that follows you every day. It could be the feeling of not being good enough, or always comparing yourself to someone else and you don't talk about it, but you feel it. And over time, you start to believe that this part of you is a weakness, something that needs to be fixed, or removed, or hidden. But what if that is not true? Most people spend their lives trying to become someone else, someone more confident, more perfect, more accepted. They look at others and think, if I was more like them, everything would be better. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to reject parts of themselves, the quiet parts, the uncomfortable thoughts, the things that don't fit the image they want to show. But the more you try to hide something, the more power it has over you. It doesn't disappear. It just moves deeper. Think about a moment when you felt insecure. Maybe you were in a room with people who seemed better than you, smarter, more confident, more comfortable. And in that moment, your mind became louder. You started to overthink, to question yourself, to hold back. That feeling is something most people run away from. They try to ignore it or cover it with confidence. But what if that feeling is not there to stop you, but to show you something? Let me give you a simple example. Imagine two people in the same situation. One feels completely confident, never questions themselves, and moves forward without thinking much. The other feels uncertain, notices every detail, and thinks deeply before acting. At first, it looks like confidence is the advantage, but over time, the second person begins to see things others miss. They prepare more, they observe more, they understand more. What once felt like a weakness starts to become a quiet strength. The things you call flaws are often signals. They are pointing your attention to something important. For example, if you feel insecure about your skills, it might push you to improve them. If you feel like you don't belong, it might make you more aware of your environment. These feelings are uncomfortable, but they are not useless. They are information. And if you learn how to listen instead of running away, they can guide you in a way that confidence alone cannot. There is a reason why some of the most thoughtful people are also the ones who doubt themselves the most. It's not because they are weak. It's because they see more. They think deeper. They question more. And while that can feel heavy, it also gives them a different perspective, a deeper understanding of situations, people, and decisions, something that cannot be learned by someone who never questions themselves. But here is where most people go wrong. Instead of using that awareness, they turn it against themselves. They overthink without acting. They doubt without learning. They stay in their head instead of using what they see. And this is where a strength becomes a problem. Not because of the feeling itself, but because of how it is used. Let me tell you a short story. There was a man who always felt like he was not enough. In every situation, he believed others were ahead of him. When he spoke, he doubted his words. When he tried something new, he expected to fail. For a long time, he tried to hide this feeling. He stayed quiet, avoided challenges, and never fully showed what he could do. But one day, he decided to face that feeling instead of running from it. He asked himself, "What is this feeling trying to show me?" The answer was simple, but powerful. It showed him where he needed to grow. It showed him what skills he was avoiding. It showed him where he lacked confidence, not because he was incapable, but because he had not practiced enough. And instead of feeling ashamed, he used that information. Slowly, step by step, he improved. Nothing changed overnight. The feeling did not disappear, but it changed its role. It was no longer something that stopped him. It became something that guided him. Every time he felt insecure, he didn't run. He paid attention. He asked questions or he took action. And over time, that same feeling became a source of direction. This is something most people never realize. You don't need to remove your insecurities to grow. You need to understand them. Because inside every insecurity, there is a message, a direction, a signal pointing to something that matters. And if you ignore it, you stay confused. But if you listen, you start to see clearly. Think about your own life again. The things you avoid, the things that make you uncomfortable, the things you don't like about yourself. What if those are not random? What if they are showing you exactly where your growth is? Not in a loud way, but in a quiet, constant signal that you keep ignoring. There is also something important to understand about comparison, and when you compare yourself to others, it often creates pain. But hidden inside that pain is information. It shows you what you value. It shows you what you want. And if you use it correctly, it can become direction instead of pressure. You don't need to become someone else to improve your life. You need to become more aware of who you already are. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your patterns. Not to judge them, but to understand them. Because once you understand something, you can work with it instead of fighting it. Most people are at war with themselves. They are trying to remove parts of who they are instead of learning how to use them. And that creates constant resistance. But when you stop fighting yourself, something changes. Your energy becomes focused instead of divided. Now here is where the shift happens. The moment you stop seeing your flaws as something negative and start seeing them as something useful, everything changes. The same thoughts and the same feelings, the same experiences, but a completely different meaning. And meaning is powerful because it decides how you react. If you believe something is a weakness, you will hide it. If you believe it is a tool, you will use it. The situation does not change, but your response does. And that changes your results. So instead of asking, how do I remove this part of me? Ask a different question. Ask, how can I use this? Because the truth is, what you have been trying to hide might be the exact thing that makes you different. And in a world where everyone is trying to be the same, being different is power. The people who move forward are not the ones who are perfect. They are the ones who understand themselves. They take what they have, even the uncomfortable parts, and they use it. They don't wait to feel ready. They don't wait to feel confident. They move with what they have. So stop hiding from yourself. Stop thinking that you need to fix everything before you begin. You don't need to remove your flaws to become stronger. You need to understand them, face them, and use them. Because the things you hate about yourself are not holding you back, unless you keep running from them. But the moment you turn toward them, they stop being your weakness and start becoming your power.